Venezuela's military has found the helicopter used by a rogue elite police officer suspected of carrying out Tuesday's attack on the country's Supreme Court. The stolen aircraft was captured on amateur video, swooping down and firing shots. The court is viewed by Venezuela's opposition as a bastion of support for a dictator. Oscar Perez posted a statement on social media admitting the attack and calling on Venezuelans to rise up against President Nicolas Maduro. A full-scale manhunt is on for the 36-year-old who once starred and directed in an action film called Suspended Death, which includes scenes of him firing a rifle from a helicopter. The president has called the incident a terrorist attack and described Perez as a psychopath, while opposition supporters believe it was a government setup. Some Venezuelans are just confused. I really don't know what to believe. I think the opposition leaders and the government leaders are telling a lot of lies, and we, the people, are stuck in the middle. The attack has exacerbated an already full-blown political crisis after 3 months of opposition protests demanding general elections and for the president to quit.
There have been violent scenes on the streets of Buenos Aires as protesters clashed with riot police. Several people were arrested, although there's been no official confirmation of the numbers detained. Local media say the protesters are from a number of radical leftist groups in Argentina. They accuse President Mauricio Macri of stoking poverty and inequality through his free market policies. Macri has sought to push through austerity measures to get the debt-ravaged country's economy back on track. However, midterm elections in October could undo his plans.
A group of journalists in the Mexican capital paint SOS Press outside the National Palace to protest the killing of some of their colleagues. Earlier this week, the remains of local television journalist Salvador Adame were found. He'd been missing since being abducted by gunmen last month. The Committee to Protect Journalists ranks Mexico as the most dangerous country for reporters. At least 4 others have been killed this year in direct retaliation for their work.
We have many cases of journalists who have had to leave the country, who don't feel safe, and really the picture is still dark. We don't have an answer. It is not safe for us to work. The working conditions we journalists have, even when talking about salaries, to security conditions and physical protection, are unheard of. So that's what we're demanding.
The total number of murder investigations across Mexico was up last month to over 2,000. That's the highest number of murder probes for any month over the last 20 years. Last month, the Mexican reporter working to expose drug trafficking and organized crime was gunned down. Javier Valdez had also published a book about the dangers facing journalists who report honestly about the rampant crime and corruption gripping Mexico. Police in Australia say they have charged the Pope's chief financial advisor and the country's most senior Catholic with multiple sexual assault charges. Cardinal George Pell is the highest-ranking Vatican official to be charged in the Catholic Church's long-running sexual abuse scandal.
Cardinal Pell, like any other defendant, has a right to due process. It's important that it's allowed to go through unhindered and allowed to see natural justice is afforded to all the parties involved, including Cardinal Pell and the complainants in this matter.
No specific details of the allegations were given at the news conference, but 2 men, now in their 40s, have said that Cardinal Pell touched them inappropriately at a swimming pool in the late 1970s when Pell was a senior priest in Melbourne. He's been ordered to appear in the city's magistrates' court on July 18th.
An invitation by the French President to Donald Trump to attend July 14 national holiday celebrations in Paris has sparked debate. Some commentators say the US President's participation in the military parade, alongside American and French troops, is a sign Emmanuel Macron doesn't want to let very public differences over climate change affect bilateral ties. Others describe Trump's visit to Paris, to also commemorate the US entry into World War I, as a political and media coup for Macron, who's keen to establish himself on the world stage. A far-left political leader and former presidential candidate Jean-Luc Mélenchon has already spoken out against the visit, echoing similar opposition that's been voiced about a possible state visit by Trump to the UK.
NATO says it's stepping up defences as the latest cyber attack wreaks havoc around the globe. Thousands of computers have been crippled by a virus thought to have first taken hold in Ukraine.
What's your assessment of the latest cyber attack, including on some member states, and is NATO doing anything additional to protect the members?
We are strengthening the cyber defenses of both NATO networks, but also helping NATO allies to strengthen their cyber defenses. Looking into how we can integrate their capabilities. We have also decided that a cyber attack can trigger Article 5.
Article 5 recognises that an attack on one is an attack on all. The latest cyber strike has seen malicious code lock computers. It's demanded victims pay a ransom in bitcoins or lose their data entirely.
In major armies and major organizations, they try to avoid not patching, not putting up to date, avoid using old systems. So probably this is one protection for this specific threat.
Shipping giant Maersk was one of the first global firms to be taken down.
Syria has backed down, faced with the revival of the Franco-American red lines in Syria, and is no longer preparing a sarin attack on areas under rebel control. US Defense Secretary James Mattis says it appears that Syria had heeded the US warning issued on Monday that it would not let a new chemical attack go unanswered. The Syrian Ministry for National Reconciliation denied that it was making such preparations at the Al-Shairat airbase, the same base that was used for an alleged chemical attack in April, and repeated the claim Syria possessed no chemical weapons. The Russians also came to Syria's defense, denouncing the warning and dismissing the White House assertions that a strike was being prepared as unacceptable, further raising tension between the two.
UNICEF has delivered 36 tons of life-saving medical and water purification supplies to Yemen, increasing efforts to combat the world's worst cholera outbreak. 2 months into the epidemic, and the number of cases has surpassed 200,000. Cholera spreads by feces getting into food or water. War-torn Yemen, with its bombed infrastructure and inadequate water treatment facilities, is a perfect breeding ground. This doctor says here in the Sabine Hospital's cholera ward we receive countless patients every day, and we're working around the clock. We receive 2, 3 or 4 cases every minute, which is a huge number. More than 1,300 people have already died, 1/4 of them children. The disease is easily treated with proper resources. For now, the World Health Organization is helping set up as many treatment centers as it can across the country.
Televidente, non stiamo in spazio commercial e ora non sta back e report con nostro collega Carl Reiter.
Diamond Scrap situado net banda de